Good day, my name is Tace and I'm an AutoCAD inventor and Rivet certified professional. Within this tutorial video, we'll be looking at AutoCAD blocks. This video falls in with a series of videos I'm doing on AutoCAD. I'm drawing in millimeters as my unit standard, and I'm also drawing within Autodesk AutoCAD 2018. Now, what is a block? A block is a set of objects that is defined to be reused within your drawing. It makes life a lot easier and it just speeds up your productivity. Blocks can also be defined to be used within many drawings. So you can define some blocks in here and you can reuse them within another drawings. Alright, so I've got some objects here that I'm going to convert into blocks from 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I'm going to add these properties to them. I'm going to add retain, convert to block, delete, scale uniformly, and allow exploding to these specific blocks. Blocks can be found on your home tab underneath block, or they can be found underneath your insert tab underneath block and block definition, these two panels. Okay, so let's add our first block. Let's create our first block. So we can select create block. This one we're going to call it block 1. For our base point, now base point is like your insertion point. It's the point that it's going to add within your drawing. So it's going to, the object will snap to a point in your cursor, and that is the point that you'll be specifying over here. So we can pick that point on our drawing. I'm going to choose this point over here. We can select our objects, press enter. And for our property, we're going to add retain. These two I'm going to unselect, but we'll get back to this one at block number 4. For block units, I'm going to keep it on millimeters, but you can change it to quite a few of them. You can add a hyperlink to the block, so if the block is selected within your drawing, a website will open or something will open that you predefine. You can add a description to your block as well. And we're going to say okay. Now it doesn't look like much has happened, but what has happened is this objects has been retained their original state, so they haven't been changed to a block within the drawing, but there is a block defined for number 1. Right, but I'll show you the difference between these two in a moment. So we can say create block again. For this one, we're going to call it block 2. For our base point, we're going to pick a point. So we pick that point over there. And our objects, we're going to select our objects and press enter. For the properties that we're going to add for this one is we're going to say convert to block. For the behavior, we're going to keep open. Our settings, our block units, we can keep to millimeters, and we can say okay. Now what has happened to this one is we define a block within the drawing, so it's inserted. We can find it over here, and what happened is the objects that we use to create the block has been converted to a block, whereas number 1 has retained its original objects. Okay, now the next one is delete, so we can say create block. We call this one block number 3. For our base point, we're going to pick a point, select that point over there, and for objects, we're going to select our objects and press enter. We're going to say delete, we're going to add this property to it, and with behavior, we're not going to select anything. Settings, we're going to keep to millimeters, and we can select OK. Now what has happened, this block was, or these objects were deleted, but a block was created, as we can see over here as number 3. Okay, so let's have a look at number 4. We can say create block again, and we're going to say scale uniformly and allow exploding. So we're going to call it block 4. We're going to pick our point, our insertion point or our base point. We're going to select our objects, enter. We're going to add convert to block to it, But for our behavior, we're going to select scale uniformly and allow exploding. I'm going to explain these two momentarily. In our settings, we're going to keep to millimeters, and we're going to say okay. Alright, now this block has been converted to a block, but these behaviors have been added to them. So let's add some blocks, and then I'll get back to this one just now, but I'll just show you some of the other settings when inserting a block. Okay, so we go to insert, we select more options. You can select one over here to quickly add it, but we're going to say more options. This dialog will open up. Let's add block number 1 first. Now, our insertion point is the point that we predefined when we created the block, which is the point over there. For our scale, we're going to keep it to 1. Now, this scale is predefined, so scale 1 means that the object will remain in its original shape. Rotation, we're not going to select anything as of yet, and we can just say okay. You'll see that you can add this block to your drawing to the point that was selected as our insertion point, and we can select. Let's select another one with some other properties to it. We go to more options, keep it on 1, and we're going to say for our insertion point we're going to specify on screen. But for a scale, we're going to change it, the X scale, to 2. Our rotation we're going to keep to 0, and our units to millimeters, and we say okay. Now, as you can see, as I change my scale, my X scale to 2, it has doubled my size, my length of the block itself. So it makes it easier. So if you want to scale certain blocks or make it a bit bigger, it will change the shape within the block and when you add it to the drawing. Now we're going to insert another block. We're going to keep the scale to 1, but for our rotation, we're going to change the rotation to 180 degrees. I'm going to keep everything as is, and we're going to say okay. You'll see that the block has rotated with 180 degrees, so we can insert it within our drawing. Now let me show you what has changed with these two properties that we've defined with block number 4. So we go to insert, we go to more options, and we're going to define block 4. Our insertion point is we're going to keep it to specify on screen, but we've set the property scale uniformly to block number 4. So you won't be able to scale these on its own. You have to, if I change the X scale to 2, you'll see that my Y and Z will automatically be changed to 2. So the object or the block will increase by double its size. And we can say okay. And you can see that the block is bigger than the other blocks. Now, what does this allow exploding? Now, when you explode grouped objects or blocks, it goes back to its original objects. So, as we can see that at retain, you see that it has this object, it's got 1, and it's got another object over there. So if we try to explode this one, which we haven't set this property to, let's quickly have a look. Let's say explode, enter. You'll see that this object will not explode. It will not retain back to its original objects. But we set this property to number 4. So let's select number 4 and let's say explode, enter. You'll see that it went back to its original form, as we can see over here. Alright, so it went back to its original form. So these are some couple of properties. We've looked at retain, we've looked at convert to block, delete, scale uniformly, and allow exploding, and we've inserted some blocks with some defined properties to them. Thank you very much for watching. Please give it a thumbs up at the bottom, and please subscribe to my channel for some more videos.